Mary Jane Johnson from the Heart is made possible by the following businesses, individuals, and foundations who support the cultural arts in the Texas Panhandle.
The following is a KACV production.
You know, I think you can do anything in your life if you want it badly enough. And my mother taught me this. So I've always believed that. I don't believe you can't have what you want. You may have to work a little harder. You may have to struggle. You'll have pain. You'll have heartache. But if you want to pass through all those levels and get what you want out of life, you can do it if you want it badly enough.
Mary Jane's an extremely mind over matter type positive thinker, so the only remaining questions were just the logistics of how would we pull this off.
Of course, I was very nervous that he didn't want me to do it or wasn't accepting it. And he said, look, I don't want to be 50 years old. And you come to me and said, I could have had an opera career. I could have been a good singer, and blame it on me.
I couldn't stand in her way. We couldn't even let this little 3-year-old stand in that way. We all had to get on board this new express and ride it until we found out what happened.
People think this career is very easy, that you just stand up and sing and everyone hears you and then you go get jobs. That's not how it is at all. Because 16 years ago, I was a voice teacher. Went to Santa Fe Opera all the time, looked up there and thought, well, now I want to do that. I gave myself a year, went to the bank, borrowed the money. The people at the bank thought I was absolutely crazy. What are you going to do with your husband? What are you going to do with your child? I said, well, I'm going to take my child and put her in school, and my husband David came up once a month. It was very, very interesting lifestyle, very exhilarating, very exciting, very disappointing, very encouraging, very discouraging. All of these things come into it. I think I was very stressed out, but I was so excited about being in the city, being culturally fed, because I was really deprived in the Panhandle of Texas. So I went to the operas every night. I stood in the back at the Met, stood at New York City Opera, everything just to see as much as I could to learn my craft.
In order to make a career in the opera business, you have to have talent and brains and a huge amount of stick-to-itiveness, a willingness to be disciplined and work very hard. It's particularly hard when you also want to bring up a family and live outside of New York. It's very hard, especially at the beginning stages.
I hear so many young singers and not so young singers who come and audition for us, and I will never say to someone, don't continue on in your career, but there are hundreds of them that I hear every year, and of those I would say that, say, 20 make a career or something like that. It's very difficult.
So she came in and sang to me, and I remember she sang an aria from Handel's Alcina, very coloratura-ish aria, and she sang an aria from Freischütz, which is quite a heavy German role, and I think she sang some Traviata to me. And then the voice was a bit lighter than it is now, but she was a big talent, and I said, you know, beautiful girl, and I said, you really got to do something with this. And she said, well, I will, and in her wonderful way, and the personality just glowed in the room.
The odds are small that you actually will become as successful as Mary Jane, that you will have the kind of career that she is having and has had.
I had a lot of good fortune, and I think half of my good fortune, it was the right time. I was the right age. I was mature. I was emotionally fairly stable, as we say. My first big break was the winning of the Pavarotti competition in Philadelphia in 1981, and then performed with him in '82, doing La Bohème, Musetta in La Bohème, and Adina in Les Yeux d'Amore. And I'd have to say that was the beginning. I was trying to get a career started, and golly, to have Santa Fe Opera interested in me, the place I'd come all my life, you know, I was really excited. And then it's sort of they hired me kind of right there. Maybe I knew for sure in about a week, and I was just beside myself. Shortly after Santa Fe, Terry McEwen heard me in New York and hired me on the spot to do San Francisco Opera, and I was there for around seven operas, starting in '84, and made my debut in as Freya in Rheingold, in La Bohème as Musetta, then Midsummer Marriage, which was an American debut. And I'd have to say San Francisco I considered a home in the beginning of my career. With a singing career, you go in different stages. I don't by any means think I'm at the top stage. I still have a lot longer to go and a lot more to do that I want to do. But I think that I am achieving my craft. Really, I kind of am Minnie, normally. I do a lot on the stage to create that role, create that character. But in my soul, in the heart, I really probably am more this character than Minnie that I play. I don't mean I'm this perfect person of heart of gold or anything, but the upbringing I had, and my parents always being very much in love with each other, and Minnie talks about that in the first act, and never been kissed, and you know, I've had one man in my life, my husband, and you know, it's kind of all ties together. I'm fortunate as an American to have been able to go on tour with La Scala to Japan, where I did Fanciulla, and it was great fun, and the audiences in Japan are so exciting. Also in South America, Santiago, Buenos Aires, have done the things I do best, Salome, Flying Dutchman, in both those places. Also, I must say, to be in Canada is a wonderful treat. I've sung all across Canada, from Toronto, Lady Macbeth Mtsensk, to Vancouver, Ariadne, going back, I did Merry Widow there, going back to do Turandot, going back to do the Macropolis, and did Salome in Australia and Sydney. It is an accumulation of everything to finally get on the stage at the Met and do your craft and do your job. Because in the eyes of America, it's the most important theater to perform at the Metropolitan Opera. The first time I ever heard Art Thou Troubled, I was sitting on the front row watching Janet Baker sing it. And she's one of the great concert artists of our time, British. And I went back to her and I said, "What is that song?" And she told me, and I went immediately and got it, the last copy in English, because it is usually done in Italian, Dove sei, and I only do it in English. It says everything that needs to be said about music.
My first impression was she was a very gifted young artist, with a very lovely voice, a very healthy sound, very positive person.
What's the best compliment you can give Mary Jane as a performer?
As a performer, first class.
Mary Jane is not only a good singer, but she also has a great personality and force of personality on stage. She's never bland. Some people mightn't like necessarily her interpretation of a role, but they're never unmoved by it.
She is a dedicated performer to the point where she is one of the hardest workers I've ever seen.
I feel you have to be an athlete in this business. It's training like an athlete. It's get up in the morning, go to the gym, do your aerobic exercise, do your stretching, go out there, walk all day, whatever you do. You know, when you're physically ready, you're mentally ready. And the type of roles I do, I have to be mentally alert all the time and physically ready to move, ready to go, ready to do things on the stage. And our business is taxing, and it's very athletic. Sometimes it doesn't look like it, but if you think about it, we're walking, talking, singing, breathing, and thinking at the same time. That's a lot to do. That's a lot of things to coordinate, and you must be very focused.
Center there. Here's, what is it, 66? You know, one.
You know, this business is a business of constant working, constant studying. Yes, you go on the stage and sing a performance, but you wake up the next morning and start on the next show you're going to do. You start on the next text you're going to learn.
For the register, I was forced to put his proper name down. Ferdinand Macropolis. Good day, a birthday.
get the
Well, you were early.
rhythm.
You were earlier.
Okay.
One, your day of birth again, one.
Oh,
Christ.
Okay.
Nobody thought about Janacek's rhythms and Janacek notes.
Yes.
So therefore, that every second page you will come that when you sing it in Czech, you suddenly have notes that you didn't know you had.
Well, for instance, I sang the Macropolis case in English, and immediately after, 2 weeks after, I'm singing it in Czech, so I've had to really study hard to get the Czech at the same time I'm singing the English. Viděla.
Right. And there are these three sounds, V and F.
Yes.
Sometimes it's written V and it's pronounced in between.
Yes.
The same goes with K and G. Někde.
Někde.
Not too complete G and not complete K.
Okay. Okay.
In between. Někde. Viděla.
Viděla. Korona miela kniedli. You go to your coaches and work a great deal, and then you have to come home and digest what you've studied that day. It's tedious. I'm always working. I'm always ahead of myself. Thank goodness I did this Dvorak song to the moon, because I did it in Czech. And I had to do Czech years ago, and I had to learn it to do the piece, and it's just a beautiful tune. What a wonderful tune.
I think the biggest thing she just brings herself, which is, and you don't have to be a nice person to be a great artist. There are plenty of people who are wonderful musicians and great artists who aren't nice people. but there are those times where you have a really warm personality, and that comes across the footlights.
On top of that, she's a great colleague. By that I mean she will do anything to accommodate you in the performing process.
Everybody's the same. I was taught that growing up. Everybody's the same. You treat everybody the same because we're all in there together.
You know, in our business, sometimes there are the quote-unquote divas who think nothing of upstaging a person or situating themselves so that the spotlight is strictly on them. And you never get that from Mary Jane. She's a team player and wants the best for the performance.
It's not like I'm a star up there. Those days are gone. Stars are gone. It's only important to me now to do my craft well.
You know, I mean, she's a kind of performer that anybody would give their eye teeth to work with.
One of the most interesting things that ever happened to me was San Francisco, talking about crew and your colleagues. I had a man knock on my door, and I opened the door, and he went, "I'm your follow spot man, and I have never had such pleasure as following you with the spot every night." And I went, "Oh my God, well, come on in." You know, I wanted to say, "Come in, stay a while, let's have a drink." No, but it was a big compliment, a very, very big compliment for me. I didn't know, I didn't know there was a man behind that light for a long time. There is. Everybody's up there working to try to make it happen. And to me, that's one of the nicest compliments I've ever had. Gun stuff. I love gun stuff. Anything with arms. Who do I get to shoot? Jack Rance? Please. Not that I'm a very funny person, but I'd like to joke around. It's very important for me to keep everything light. Because when you get so serious in this business, you lose your sense of humor.
Once you get into costume, if you want to try this one,
That's the wimpy. It's so major wimpy. I mean, I put it down in my boot. I'll make it work in order not to have to carry this. Okay. Can you see me going?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
So I'm always joking and trying to keep it light because the material we're usually singing about is so heavy and so downtrodden. It's about, incest, divorce, hate, love, passion, death. It's all these things. And if you dwell on those things on the stage 6 hours a day, you're just so depressed. So I try to keep everything very light. And some people do not accept that very well. And I immediately know if they don't have a sense of humor, forget it.
I think with Mary Jane, it's a combination. She is such a warm, caring human being. I mean, she's a wonderful mother to her kids. When we were working together 2 years ago, there was a family friend of ours. It was a sad story where the children were parentless. And Mary Jane instantly earned the Mother of the Year award because she got the kids all together, and the first day they met, she organized a night at the movies and got it all going.
This is more relaxed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This is where we come in and say how much we love Mary Jane. And smile. We love Mary Jane. Big kiss.
I love him because you bring me water. To balance one's life in this business is a very difficult job. A typical year is 200 days away from home, around that. People ask me all the time, I get calls from people, well, how do you work your children going to school and taking them with you? I do it job at a time. Okay, I'm away 3 weeks. I bring the children to me then. They stay 10 days. They stay 6-day weekends. They go home, they have to go to school. But what is important is to realize not what's best for me, but what's best for my children at this stage. You feel it as you go along. I need you with me.
I swear you do your lip and you put it underneath, it's all over your teeth. I swear it's what you do.
I do it just for you, so you'll say, Mom, there's lipstick on your teeth.
You lift your lip up and you go,
and then I put it on my teeth, and then I go, so you'll tell me.
It's still on there.
Yes. It's great having a daughter. But now that I have an 18-year-old who's going off to college, I have to do what's best for her. And she complains she wants to be with her friends. That's the age. Yet the little boy who's 11 would sometimes rather be with his mom.
A typical example of the excitement that was generated by children in our relationship is that when Greer was born, Mary Jane was performing in the summer June, July, and August in Santa Fe, and Greer as a teeny tiny newborn infant. Before he returned to his home crib in Amarillo, he went from Santa Fe to San Francisco, from San Francisco to Seattle, from Seattle to Washington, D.C., and then finally he returned with his mother and his nanny to his crib in Amarillo. And we've always gotten a big kick out of that, of how he was half grown when he finally got home.
It's not all roses, you know, you have to work at it. I would say the most important thing in a marriage, or in our marriage, is communication. And constantly talk. We talk every day, no matter where I am. And if we don't talk, we thank goodness for the fax machines. Hopefully when they come home from school, they go into the fax machine if I'm in Europe, and there's their fax. I'm now into trying to look at a laptop computer to try to do email and things like that, so we can really communicate and have a conversation.
Phones, fax machines, tape recorders, tape recorder episode. I never knew this, but I found out in retrospect that I had terrified one of Taylor's teachers because I walked in for a parent-teacher conference, thought, ooh, Mary Jane can't be here to share in this moment, plunked down my little pocket-sized tape recorder and said to the teacher, go ahead, speak just like Mary Jane was here. I'm going to get this cassette to her. I found out later it made the teacher really nervous.
And you have your rollerblades?
Yeah.
And you have your piano lesson. And you have your shoes.
Like most families in America, we've got the great appointment book that's either on the kitchen counter or on a magnet on the refrigerator, because everybody's got a lot of activities on a daily basis, and it requires a lot of carpooling.
Taylor, it's Dad. I hope you catch this message when you come home for lunch from school. Remember, it's Tuesday, so I hope you can be there to pick her up at school at 3:30. And then don't forget his piano lesson is at 4, and it only lasts 45 minutes, so don't forget to pick him up. And then when you get back home, when I come home from work, we'll meet and we'll rendezvous and we'll talk about dinner. Love you. Bye-bye.
The reality of my career is that I am singing on the stage and call home and there's an argument going on in the kitchen, or there is a child without the proper socks, and I'm hearing all of this on the telephone, and it's stressful, and it's stressful for David, and it's stressful for me on the other end because I can't find that pair of socks. It's somewhere, but I can't find it.
I'm sure from the children's perspective that certain frustrations set in, just like dear old Dad dealing with a teenage daughter. I've had my share of frustrations over the last couple of years. I'm sure we know they miss Mary Jane horribly, especially when they need a referee or a different ear, a feminine ear, that motherly love, and poor old Dad can't give it to them. Those have got to be frustrating moments for them.
Hot, Bubba, don't touch it. Touch it. Hot.
Okay, let's eat. Yes, I have guilt. Yeah. I'm not home all the time. Have to make the best of it. Look, it's perfect, but I didn't think about it. I didn't set it aside. Hey, Greer and David.
I'm Taylor. Greer and Dad are going.
Come on. Right now. You have to go on, do your job. When you're home, be home. Not be out doing something. Be home for your family, for your children. And I try to do that. Of course, I have a lot of guilt about not doing that. That's normal. That's normal, but I try to work through that.
Good cut, Greer, a little faster.
And of course I won't know how damaging it was until 20 years down the road when my children say, well, you were off singing somewhere, and I'm sure they will.
He was praying for that to be evolved. But this idea of over-pressurizing everything, is that the right word? Making everything so artsy-fartsy, like I call it. You know, I'm not a believer of that.
Our friends, our family, we're all here in Amarillo, and you owe something of yourself to your friends, to your community.
Exactly. No. You hear the difference? There's a ooh and then there's a ooh. That's it. No, no. Let's get it right. No. Ooh. Like you're thinking, ooh. I don't like that one. Go back to that deep one. I like that one. Okay. He wants to keep it. And it's called The Bear Who Loved Puccini. Do you know who Puccini was? He was a very famous Italian opera composer.
They don't have a lot of opera singers here in town. It's nice to be one and to be able to go into Greer School and give them something from a professional in that field, hands-on as we say, that they don't get or wouldn't have received just from one of the teachers there.
And then he remembered what Shorty John had said that day when he told him that more than anything in the world, he wanted to be an opera singer. What Shorty John had said was simply this: well, if that's what you want more than anything in the world, then do it. And that's exactly what Robert Remsen Barefoot Rainfield had done. That's the book. You want to hear a real live opera singer sing? Okay, you have to be quiet.
The Symphony office has been very enjoyably a complete zoo. We just receive call after call for the Mary Jane concert. No one seems to remember that Beethoven is involved. It's just the Mary Jane concert. A combination of name recognition and respect that Mary Jane has brought to this performance, I can't think of a comparable artist anywhere for any orchestra that would have the same effect. I think we'd almost have to book the Statue of Liberty as our guest artist to get the same kind of effect.
When I was asked to perform the Fidelio here with Amarillo Symphony, I looked on the calendar and I realized it was Taylor's senior year. So I went upstairs to her room and I said, now Taylor, they've asked me to do this Fidelio here and I want to know how you feel about it. If it would embarrass you for your mom to be singing and your peers to know that, you just tell me because I'll do it the year after. She said, no, that's okay, you go ahead. It's okay. So are you positively sure? Yes, I'm positively sure. So one reason I wanted to do it is because it was her senior year and I knew she'd have memories. And not because her mom is this, quote, opera singer or whatever, but because it would give her a very proud feeling. Of course, I didn't know that she was bringing the flowers, and I'd kind of hoped maybe something like that would happen for her. Not for me, for her. But that was the highlight of the evening, I must say, when she walked up and handed me those flowers and hugged me. I knew she was proud. I wasn't going to cry.
I remember reading a long, long time ago this line that to be a friend, you needed to truly be a friend to the other's excitement. And Mary Jane's excitement, her discovery of her new excitement, was this passion for performing opera, for being on stage. And as her best friend, there was only one thing for me to do, and that was to endorse and to wrap my arms around her excitement as best I could.
I couldn't be married to a more fabulous person. I respect him, I admire him, I love him, and it works for us. David and I met in college. My freshman year, he played basketball for Texas Tech.
Our introduction was arranged by my roommate. He and she shared an Italian class.
So they called me one night to go to the movies, and it was 4 basketball players and me. And we went to the drive-in movie, which was Skin Flicks. So here I was in the car with 4 basketball players at nude movies. It was quite an experience.
I'm a tall guy, and she is tall, ravishing, and she had the longest and most gorgeous legs I had ever seen. So we began to jokingly refer to one another that we had matching legs. The other thing, Texas Tech has one of the largest physical campuses in terms of acreage, and I'm a fast walker, and Mary Jane could always keep pace with me. I love that.
I had to do a junior recital at Tech, and we were engaged at this time, and I gave the recital, I guess it was May, the 1st of May or the end of April, and we were getting married May 15th. And one of the songs on the recital that I did was When I Have Sung My Songs to You. And this was, I dedicated it to David, and still to this day, I don't sing it very often, but when I do, it's a moment for both of us.
In a long time.
How's everybody?
We're
You're still
fine.
I treasure my friendships, and I treasure the people in my life. And that's very important to me. And you can't have everybody that you want in your life all the time, but you can have the people that mean the most to you.
The reason we're here is because she said of all the instructors she's had, you're the one who inspired her.
Well, I hope so. Makes me feel very proud. You don't get a student like that every day.
I think one of the things that I treasure most about Mary Jane and David is the fact that once you are their friends, You are their friends for life.
Doug Alton, we were in a singing group in high school. David, Doug, and Mary, or Doug, David, and Mary. Not Peter, Paul, and Mary, but Doug, David, and Mary. Because they need a low voice, and at the time I sang alto.
But the truth was that David and I, probably on our best days, weren't very good. And Mary Jane kind of carried the show. It's typically, with folk music back then, you might sing 3 or 4 verses. Well, everybody took a verse. And Mary Jane would sing and really shine, and then it says, you know, something like, "Take it, Doug." And you went, oh.
Mary Jane hadn't changed one bit. Not one bit. She loves everybody and she sees everybody. And she's just exactly like she was when they're growing up.
Cheeseburger, 3 conies on one. A cheeseburger and 2 cheese conies on one, no onion. Now that's it.
Put it down here so I can see what you got.
She's friendly, she's kind, she's generous, really generous. For instance, the Pampa Community Concert was having trouble getting on its feet for a while. This is the last couple of years now. Mary Jane did a benefit for us so we could make some money just to get ourselves back on our feet. That's really something special. I'm not sure she wants it told, but that's a special lady.
Oh, she always loved yellow roses. And I've sent flowers everywhere, all over the United States and in Europe too. And I always call. I don't like to wire. I like to call and tell them how special she is, that I need something extra, extra special for her.
Maybe because I'm from a small town, Amarillo, 160,000 people, Pampa, 20,000 people. Grew up in the Panhandle, know everybody, and love the fact that I know all these people, and they get joy out of coming to see whatever I do. And to see them there, to know they're there in the audience is a tremendous support level. It's like a family, a big family coming to support what I'm doing, being proud of me, but I'm also very proud that they would take the time, take the money, take the energy that it comes down to get to where I am.
Did she ever talk to you about her dream?
Oh yeah, it was a wish come true.
What would she say?
One of these days I'm going to be a famous opera star. I'm going to be a great singer. I said, Mary Jane, you're already a great singer. And here she is. I mean, it's, you know, I hate to add a cliche to it, but the rest is history.
You know, you feel as if she's singing especially to you. And she's a lovely human being, and to the bargain. She has no airs or graces. That's the nice part.
It's very heartwarming. I couldn't ask for a better situation for myself.
I want to borrow that purple number, okay?
If you're really born to do this business, which I feel I am born to be in this business, you get on that stage and you're the instrument in which the composer has used to create his score, to create his music. And it comes through you, and you pass it on to the audience. And the joy you see in the audience for accepting your gift is what spurs you on to keep doing it. thank you, Puccini. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Verdi. Thank you, Strauss. Just, you know, Shostakovich, anybody, because they give you the text and the music, and it's up to the team to put it together, and it's an addiction. Because when you have felt that thing come together, when you feel all those things come together, and it doesn't come together every job. It doesn't happen every job. But when it does, you can't have enough of it. And so you continue to create. And hopefully it will move someone and make someone's life better and make someone happier than they were before they came into the theater. That's our job. Well, I can't tell the real story of where we went, because you know that. Okay, I know how to do that. Okay. You rolling, buddy?
Once again, 1678, I was also...
Oh, 1678.
The crew, I would go off stage. Let me start that again. In Santa Fe in 1991, we were doing Fanciulla del West, and I had to walk off stage in the middle of the second act, and they always had a glass of water for me, and I'd drink it and come back in. And the last night had been such a successful show, and everybody had been such a team. And the last night, the crew, the backstage crew, was standing there with a nude poster of some guy, you know, some stripper. And I walk in, open the door to get and they're all standing there holding this nude poster. Well, I just started screaming back. I was laughing so hard. Then I had to go in and sing a high C, but you know. I love to close with simple gifts. It tells about me, it tells about my family, it tells about our life in Texas. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free. 'Tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. It really just says it like it is, doesn't it?